We're going to start with listings. So the first question is, what is your initial process when you receive a lead or referral for a listing?
Okay. Systems are the key to everything. Communication, systems and communication. So whenever I get a lead, there's 4 things that I want to accomplish. One, I want to genuinely connect with the client. So in the beginning, it's a conversation of, questions to kind of build rapport, right? So you have that warm, fuzzy, talk about personal things, not too personal, but thank you for reaching out, asking them questions about what's important to them. So again, you can kind of figure out where their hot buttons are, if that makes sense. From there, I like to qualify them, right? Because I've had a situation where I showed up to a listing appointment and it was not even the owner of the property. So you want to ask them, have you tried to sell your home before, so you can get some history? Is this the first time that you've ever sold a house before? How long have you owned your home, so you kind of understand what type of equity position they're possibly in unless they refinance? Are you selling your home with anyone else? You need to figure out who's the decision maker. So again, connect, then qualify. Then what I do is lead into getting their contact information. Instead of even if I get a lead, I don't settle for, hey, I gave such and such your contact information. I want to be in control over the information. So I always ask, would you be okay if I reach out to that person directly? And most of the time they're always like, yeah, sure, here's their information. So you want to be in the driver's seat. So my script that I use to get people's contact information is, hey, I'm going to send you some information about me and the team. What is the best place? It's an assumptive close. What is the best place to email you that contact, that information? And automatically they want to go into that assumptive close and give you their information. Whereas instead of saying, what's your email address? Well, why do you want my email address? Stuff like that. So you get their contact information, and then you always close the deal with booking a consult. So what day works best for you? Would Monday or Wednesday work best for a consult at 1 o'clock? Don't just ask them, would you like to meet? No, you want to say, would Monday or Wednesday work, at 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. And make sure, just like a doctor's appointment, you can't just call in and say, I want to meet you at Monday at, 9 a.m. They say, no, that's not what's going to work for me. Instead of letting them dictate your schedule, you take the control in the beginning of the process so that you can control the entire process by leading them in what you can do on your schedule. So my whole objective is connect, qualify, contact information, and close it with a consult.
Great. Jenny, we'll skip you since you're going to be the buyer person. We're going to go on to Marcos.
So in my work, and of course I focus on Hispanics, so it's a very different approach when it comes to us because of cultures, right? So my people want to meet with you face to face. My people would call you, hey, I would like to, sell a house and this and that and the other. And of course, everything she said, I couldn't say it any better than she has. You meet them, you talk to them, you make sure you make a connection, okay? Because there is many other people that can answer the call and go sell a house. But very few people make a connection. I try to always make sure that I make that connection, because that connection defines my business with them for the rest of their lives, right? You become a brother in our part of the world. Once you help somebody, they can't leave without you. Whatever they're gonna do, whether it's their mom, dad, uncle, whoever, they're gonna have to call you. They don't really have a choice. And so you've got to make sure.
Must be nice.
They'll look for other things too.
Yes. You become their whole everything: lawyer, marriage counselor, loan officer. You become everything, and so I take that very seriously too. And I make sure that first call, you connect with your client, and this can apply to any kind of people, right? But you make sure you connect with your client. Once you connect with your client, in my part of the world, the next thing they want to do is meet with you ASAP. Hispanics on our side are somewhat procrastinate, so by the time they called you, they should have sold the house 2-3 months ago. So when they called you, they're in an urge to sell immediately. So you've got to make sure that when you're answering the call, you understand that they're going to want to see you as soon as possible. And so I make the appointment like Ms. Morat said, and I go over there, meet them, see the house. In my side of the world, I've learned, and whoever has been doing business for more than 10 years will know this, See, we're shifting back into the market to where your listing has to be properly presented. It can no longer be like 2 years ago or even a year ago where you can list anything and it'll sell no matter what. There were being memes about how the house is falling apart and it's $800,000 and you sold in half an hour. Those days are pretty much gone. Okay, and so what I like to do is I like to meet with them, go to the house, see the house, and in most of the instances I have got to make sure that, you know, we're going to have to paint, we're going to have to do the carpet, we're going to have to make it presentable, because selling the house easy is just no longer going to happen. Or if he does, it'll be after reduction and reduction, because you've seen that time and time again. And so I make sure the house is connect with the client, the house is presentable, fixed, and all that, and I help them with that. I have friends and contractors that most of the time will do the work. Make sure you have a sphere of influence that you use. If you have a painter that can paint and is really good, make sure you connect with all of them, because they might save you a deal. They might be willing to do a transaction for you and your client without getting paid at closing, so that you can make it easier for the client to have you a presentable home. And so I have had to be doing that, particularly lately. I want to say this because I see a lot of listings. I looked it up, and a lot of listings are taking a bunch of days in the market and a bunch of reductions. And when you look at the pictures, the house is not presentable. So you've got to make sure, each one of you, that you have a presentable listing. And if you have to do some things, that first meeting when I go to the house, I meet them, meet the kids, do all of that, and then I tell them a whole long list of things that they've got to do before I come back to take pictures and list this home. And if they don't do it, then that's okay. 9 times out of 10 they do, and when we sell the house for way over what they thought, even now, I have sold listings over listing asking price, even now. When you do that, you look like a hero, and they feel very good because they were part of the success. They worked it, they fixed it, they paid for it, and now you have a very presentable home that you could have sold in any market. Yeah. And so that would be my 2 cents. I'm so sorry.
Perfect. No, good. That's good information, and I think that's very important. I know Philip's been talking that about a lot too. Maria?
All right, so most of my listings are returning clients, but I do have, obviously, other ones that come in. But the first thing I do is build a report. That's the most important thing, I think. Number 1 is building a report. Number 2 is knowing the way social media is. Everyone has access to social media, so there's always going to be other ads from other realtors. So the most important is time. Time is everything. You can't just wait a week, 2 weeks to try to schedule an appointment. As soon as you get that client, make that phone call, schedule, and try to build that rapport. You have to make sure you build that relationship and make them your partner, because they'll go somewhere else, and then now you have more competition. So you want to make sure they fall in love with you first. That's number 1. Another thing is knowing their goals, their purpose. Why are you selling it? You want to know. You want to make sure that you're able to make that connection emotionally with them, and then give them realistic expectations. Because if you have a mad client because you told them the house is going to sell in a week and then they don't, they're going to go somewhere else. Then you have a bad review. Bad reviews are horrible. They're horrible. It's like short-term rentals. You have a bad review, you're not going to book it, right? Same thing with this business. So always make sure that you're on top and on point, and always that customer service is number 1. Another thing is also, what else? Oh, presentations. When you have that listing, have a presentation. It's an image, close the deal for you to have a contract by the end of that meeting. So some people go, I've had clients that tell me, well, I had another realtor came and he was just telling me no presentation. So when I got there and I had presentations, pictures, I had my laptop in case they didn't have any laptop. I said, here, I'm going to show you numbers, statistics of how many days in the market. You give them realistic expectations. So if they want to overprice their house, hey, this is on you. If it fails, it's not on me. You know, and pictures. Oh my God, pictures are everything. I've seen pictures of some listing agents that are horrible. And I'm like, what were they thinking? I see one with a cat there. I was like, what were they thinking? So I'm serious.
Yeah.
I mean, so pictures are everything. And another thing is, it's not like back in the days where you could just list a house and pictures. That's it. No, you have social media. So whether it's just Realtor and it's in every other like Zillow and all these other websites, you still have to go out of your way and market it on social media. Whether it's joining the groups, the local groups, share the property. You're going to get more clients like that, and you have a better chance of hitting someone, whether they have a realtor, they'll contact the realtor, hey, I saw this house. So knowing all that, doing all those things will have you'll be more successful in selling and also getting your name out there.
Great.
That's my advice.
Excellent. April?
Yes. So when I initially get a seller lead, like Maria, most of my business is repeat business. So most of the time I'm familiar with the home, but of course some of my business is referral as well. So in the cases where I'm not familiar with the home, for example, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my database, and this goes back to the systems and processes that we were talking about. I open up my database and I enter that person's name in the database. And I generally like to have that open when I'm making a phone call so I can record the notes from my conversation as well as take note of the date of the appointment that I'm setting. My number one goal during that initial call is to set the appointment. Once we set the appointment, you can establish rapport, you can do all of those things, but unless you can get face-to-face with that person, you know, the conversation's no good. So if I'm not able to set the appointment during the initial call, then I will set follow-up. I generally ask potential clients, when's the next best time for me to follow up with them? I want their permission to follow up with them. And generally we're able to look at calendars together even if we're not able to get a face-to-face appointment, and at least set time for a follow-up conversation. And then I like to have deliverables for that follow-up conversation based on our initial call. So if they're wanting a market overview, if they're wanting to see, you know, just generally what their home could sell for, whatever those deliverables are, I have that database open, I've got all my notes from that conversation, and then I can use that information to prepare for our next call or our next meeting. During the face-to-face meeting, actually I'll back up a little bit. I also have a very detailed seller consultation. So even for my, my past clients that are coming to me to sell, I still go through the entire seller consultation to talk to them about any upgrades or updates they've done to the property. If I'm familiar with the house, it's going to be easier for me to look at comps, but it's helpful for me to know what they've done to the property since they purchased it. So lots of detailed questions in the seller consultation that I'll ask during that either A, initial phone call if it's a repeat client, or B, initial meeting when I'm sitting down with the seller for the first time. When I sit down with them, I have a detailed checklist of everything that I guess I expect. I have high expectations that be done by the time the house is listed. So everything from exterior curb appeal to interior work that needs to be done, maintenance items, and I have that broken down into about 30-minute projects. And it's a one-page checklist that people can just pop on their refrigerator and work through those items. And I even have a section for, last-minute preparation to do before photos, last-minute preparation to do the day of listing. So those are all things that, depending on the stage of that initial appointment, I may get to during the initial appointment, or I may get to in a follow-up appointment. But I bring that along with me, as well as comps. And then we also do a detailed walkthrough of the property. Generally, people like to show off their house. They're generally really proud of it. So get them to talk to you about the things that they love about their home. And that helps you connect with the seller, but it also helps you sell the property. So I generally do all of that, as well as take a walkthrough video. I'm kind of a night processor, so I'll watch the videos in the evenings and at night, and I'll just take notes about staging, take notes about any cosmetic things that need to change. And I can use that video to kind of reference what I saw in person to put a full holistic plan together for them.
Awesome, awesome. This is, okay, go ahead.
I kind of answer the question a little bit differently. There's three things that I do that I didn't mention that I feel like go a long, long way. So they're systematized. So I created with my assistant a Google Drive questionnaire. So when I'm on a phone call, I don't spend a lot of time going through what renovations have you done to the home, blah, 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 what's your address. I don't even get their address when I'm usually on the phone call with them. I tell them I'm going to send you two very important emails. One is going to be a Google Drive questionnaire and one is gonna be an overview of our strategic marketing plan in addition to some information about me and the team. And they get the email about our marketing plan from my listing manager, because I want to kind of create that on the front end, that there is another person involved in the process, and she's my cheerleader. So instead of me tooting my own horn about our 350 reviews on Zillow or something like that, I have somebody else communicating that. But this Google Drive document, y'all, is so awesome. We do it on the buy and the sell. It's so easy to create. It puts everything into a spreadsheet. So even when I'm doing my lead gen follow-up and stuff like that, and I've had a phone call but I've never met with them, or I've had a consult but they decided to put on hold, I have everything in a spreadsheet that tells me their full contact information, their birthday, you know, their improvements, all that stuff, and I have it. I don't even have to write it down. I don't have to type it up. They do it. So I would highly encourage everybody to create some type of quick and easy drop-down menu form with a few things where they actually write things out for improvements and stuff like that, so that when I go into the listing appointment, I know they've added a back porch, I know that they've replaced the floors and stuff like that. And I ask them, what do you think your house is worth? Are you going to be interviewing other agents? If I do a good job in communicating with you and going over a great plan, would you plan to hire me? I mean, I ask like pretty direct questions in this questionnaire, so that when I'm reading it and I see they don't know what the price is worth, yeah, right. You know, I'm like, damn it! Excuse my language, but I'm just like, oh. But when they say 320 and I'm like, oh, I think it's 350, I'm like, yes! So anyway, that goes a long way. And then of course I have a listing presentation, but I have that later on, but it's a full consultation process. Yeah.
Okay, real quick, rapid fire on this one, just what tools do you use to determine price?
Okay, I have 7 things. One, it's not a black and white process. Of course I use the MLS. I'm paying more attention to pending and competition versus closed sales. So I'm very conscious about where to strategically place ourselves. Like I've been doing a lot of townhomes recently, and those are hard to sell right now because you have a lot of competition. They're all the same floor plan, the same finishes. So I'm having to price them 5% under the competition, which I'm sure the other listing agents love that about me. I'm using RPR, which is, you know, I'm basically kind of looking at what they're looking at. I'm looking at Zillow, not to think that I actually believe in Zillow, but I want to see what they're looking at. Looking at Redfin to see what they're looking at. Again, just so I'm not blindsided by the fact that I come in and they're like, well, Zillow said 1.4 and you're telling me $1 million. I review their questionnaire that I just mentioned. I don't price per square foot. I don't believe in that. I price strategically in certain price ranges. So I look at things in like $25,000 to $50,000 increments. And so like if the competition, you know, if things are selling, you know, at a certain price point, I try to, I'm going to be honest, like, and I'm very direct with my sellers. I am a conservative pricer. Like I'm not one that's trying to like create new comps. And even in the hot market, I don't do that. And I don't care if I lose a listing, I'm not going to overprice something. So I'm very, very honest, very direct, and I'm, you know, when I communicate with them, I say, listen, I tend to price conservatively because my goal is to create as many bees to the honey. I want to generate as many offers as possible. That's going to get you the top price. It's also going to help us negotiate the best terms for your home outside of price. It's going to give me more leverage to control the process, to get them to use my lender, to close when we want to close, to do a temporary occupancy, to do as is, to negotiate a backup offer. So I kind of create a value proposition for pricing. I'll go back to 2022, the good old days, in the first half, and I'll discount it by 5 to 15%, depending on the neighborhood and the type of product, whether it's a townhome or a single family. So again, it's a very gut process for me. It's not a black and white process. Yeah.
Marcos?
And I'll call Jenny and be like, what do you think?
That's true.
We'll get to Jenny in the buyer side because she's
she's a rock star.
Okay.
So on my side, I've used the MLS, I use RPR, and most of the transactions that I do are in well-known places, so by the time the person tells me the address and all that, I kind of already know kind of like where they're at, and pretty much, you know, it's pretty much said done, but you do the review. One of the things I do that people find in the presentation of the comps is I do the list. Like I put a circle around the house and I go a mile or two, depending on where they're at, right? and I list everything in the square footage, and it creates a huge list of homes, right? And I print it out and tape it together, and I put the days of, what's the name of it, rank it on the days of market, and I just let that sucker roll all the way, and I go like this. So you see, if you want to sell in this many days, this is kind of like where we need to stay up over. If you want to sell, if you want to take a little longer because you just don't have anything else to do, we can come together. And if you want to sit in the market, let's do the price you said you wanted to do, which is right here. And I highlight the lines to where you kind of know, how long you're going to be waiting. And you wouldn't believe, see, my community, they kind of put it on me. You pick the price and I'll do it because they trust, in my side of the world, they trust you wholeheartedly to where it makes it hard for you to make a decision because they want you to make the decision. And I make sure it's on them, right? And so by showing them that visual, in my case, when I show them that visual, it allows them, it helps them to say, you know what, yeah, I wanted that new car, but if that new car is never going to come because it's going to take 300 days, let me go up and maybe, do this. And it's helped me tremendously when it comes to the presentation of the comparables.
That's very good. I like that.
I use the same systems, and I do the same thing. I know what every client's different depending, like for example, my Hispanic clients, they leave everything up to me. It's on you. We trust you. You do whatever you want. But again, I don't want that liability, right? Like I don't want to. If it doesn't sell, then they're gonna point fingers and no. You have to make the choice, the decision. But I do the same thing. I use the same systems. Obviously, with the market shifting, you have to know what's going on in the market because even if you go just by square footage, but you're seeing the trend. Like right now, right? You're seeing some drop 10,000, some this, people getting paid closing costs. So you have to be realistic of like, let's go down. Even though it sold 6 months or 3 months ago for more, it might not because it's based on what's going on and also the condition of the house. So those factors also come in play. So obviously with the square footage also along with what's going on in the market. So I base it on that. It's a little bit of both in experience.
Great. April?
Well,
go ahead, Marcus.
Let me interject real quick. I forgot. Okay. There's going to be the one listing that you are going to feel the most uncertain about, okay? When that happens, please reach out to an appraiser. Do not try this. I've done it. I've been doing it for 18 years. I have winged it and failed miserably, okay? There is, what's the name of this guy? Oh my goodness, he's going to hate me for this because I've had him do just about 6 or 7 this last year, recently now. Clint, yes. Clint is your best friend. You just don't know it just yet, okay? You can text him. He's a benchmark agent, and he sells and does appraisals. And my man, I would send him the address. Clint, I'm losing my mind. This is not working out. I need you. And he'll send it to you, I mean, within 2 to 3 days. He's the man. And he'll tell you why, and he'll ask you for pictures and all of that stuff, just so that when in doubt, just use the resources you've got. Again, I just wanted to jump that up.
That's great info.
I use an appraiser too.
Yeah. April?
I use a lot of the same tools that have already been discussed. A couple of the things that I use in addition to that, just as we are going through a changing market, I love the market reports that you send out, Mike. Really helps me keep a pace of what's going on in the market since we have had so much change in the last year. And then Real Scout on the back end has a pricing tool that's in the listing tools. And it basically allows you to break the price down in increments of 3%, 5%, 10%. To see if there's a large shift in the number of buyers that you're going to be pooling in each of those brackets. So that's something else that I look at, as well as looking at closed sales, which I felt like I leaned heavily on closed sales, especially right up to the point when we went to market, when we were in crazy multiple offer situations. Just because I wanted to know what that last sale got over asking price so then I could leverage that. Right now I'm leaning heavily on active competition and under contracts to see what the time on market was in different brackets, and then I present my sellers with basically a range. And similar to what Marcos does, I discuss the pros and cons of the high end, middle end, and low end of that range, and then put it on the seller to make a choice.
Great. Some of you,
Time.
but